Oh man, Captain's Log entry 6. I think I got it wrong last week, which was embarrassing to say the least. I have a different setup. This is they always say look at the camera or whatever, but just the way I have it set up now, I'm kind of digging this. I'm gonna stick with this. I'm just gonna be honest. Um, man, what I just wanted to jump on here and really just kind of I guess share good slash great news. You know what I mean? It's been such a interesting it's been such a interesting um few days. I think that in the last few weeks, I guess we were talking about, staying consistent and just doing it. Last we talked about just doing it, you know what I mean? And this is me doing it. So I have converted my spare room into a media station. When I do a look back, I'll share the picture. I'm not sharing it now because I don't need that kind of energy in my life. But it was talking to a few of my friends and really just kind of going down, what I want to do, how I want to do it. It just kind of said, they were like, Chris, we talk about it a lot, but we just gotta do it. And I'm like, you fucking right. I'm like, you must have watched my video or something, man. Um, but so I finally got my station set up. I got my little workspace set up, so that's gonna be good. Um, it's an update. I am currently learning Blender all over again, starting from scratch. So I'm starting to slowly get back into it. But I just wanted to not make it long. I didn't want to make this long or anything like that. I didn't want to go crazy or nothing. But I did just want to talk about, progress. So this last week, I have again set my station up, set my little workspace up, which is cool. You know what I mean? I'm kind of locked in with that, and I have my schedule like laid out a little bit. So I got exactly what I want to do outside of work. I feel like there should be finding balance, and I think that's what I'm probably gonna title this that, but it's finding that balance between what you want to do and what you see yourself doing. You know what I mean? And I think that the cliche work life balance, things like that. You really have to find that. I think before you get into it, because you can easily overwork yourself. I think depending on how big your project is, it's very easy to overwork yourself, especially when you don't know the steps. I think that that's like a real key moment is when you don't understand the steps it takes to get from A to B to Z. You tend to not underestimate just how how much work and headache and strife it's going to take to really see that through to the end. And I think that's a big thing for me. So I've been doing a lot of research these last few weeks on just exactly, what I want to do and what I see doing. And I think that like understanding how big the task is. So just a recap, so anyone just jumps into this video. Um C Plus Studio, in its core is a publishing studio, right? I want to be able to create somewhere. I'm not gonna reveal the secret sauce. We always got too comfortable. But I did it so I did it because at a certain point, there's a lot of things that I want to do project wise. And the main project I've been working on, Voyager, it's just a huge undertaking. And I underestimated, the sheer level of skill required to do individual things. And not only the skill, but um cost as well. Like I had looked up. I mean, I'm gonna throw out some numbers. Um, a comic book, was going to cost me anywhere between $2,000 to $5,000 a issue. I can't draw, mind you. I can't draw. I only have story. I only have story in mind. I can't draw any of that. Recognize your limitations, right? So I was like, okay, about 2 grand for that. That's cool. Um, So I kept that in mind. It's out of my budget. I'm not trying to spend $2,000 on a issue. You know what I mean? Like that's just insane. I don't have a baseline, for that to make any sense. So, etch that out. Um, 3D art, which varies. So I gotta say, it has to be good. So good 3D art. I wanted to do like short cinematic short films, right? 5 minutes or so, like nothing crazy. But the price is crazy. So I don't want to throw all the numbers for that one because I mean that just it really just varies from person to person. But I will tell you the cheapest I got from a person was $800 a minute is what it, and that was kind of like not a lot of there's not a lot of going on in those scenes. So that was the absolute cheapest, and it was really a bare bones operation. And now I know, like I said, I know a small amount of 3D, so I know what it takes to get into 3D. I understand like I understand why certain things take so long. I know you can streamline them. I don't know how to streamline them, so like um it's overall it is a hard it's hard for sure. You know what I'm saying? Um so they kept that in mind. I was like, okay, so back burner that or whatever, right? And then I wanted to see I this was way I know it was the future, but I was curious to see how much it was going to be. So I looked into like doing an animation series, right? About 100,000 to do a full blown animated series, right? 100,000, and that is like because you have so many people working on it. Because I mean, you have to meet deadlines. I mean, it's just a lot. You know what I mean? Like it's a lot that goes into that. It's not just one person getting 100 grand. It's like a whole. It's a team working on it or whatever. But about 100 grand an episode, which was like around those numbers, and you could definitely get it done cheaper. But again, it's just like I didn't want like mediocre work with stuff like this because I wanted to know like how much would it actually cost to do it. Like how much would it cost? And then I think like the last one was like that was 2D animation, and then I was looking at because I was watching like anyone else Love Death Robots. I was watching that, and that had inspired me. And I think when I had looked it up, it's really hard to find how much stuff costs, with TV shows and things like that. But what I seen it was like $10 million to do those like the first season or something like that. So just crazy, just crazy pricing. You know what I mean? But it's just I mean you have to know these things, like because when I found out how much the comics was, I was like, how much is everything else costing? So I just kind of like dug in and started doing a lot of research and just figuring out what those numbers are. And then I think um after that, then it was kind of like switching into like the video game sector and things like that. So I was trying to learn how to do not me learn. I was trying to learn how much it would cost because that's a space I would have no idea like where to start because I don't even know what it takes to make a video game. I don't know what it takes to make a crypto. I mean, you can see online like, oh yeah, make a crypto X amount. If you can do it yourself, blah 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 blah. Yada yada yada. But I mean, I just don't know that for sure. Security and all the different things that's involved in it. Um, I just couldn't tell you exactly, how that works. But um, I just feel as though it was just a point that I wanted to find someone that I can figure it out. Now, I had talked to one guy. He said to get the framework. So it basically says it's like I can't exactly what he called the name of it, but it's like and this was not for crypto. I apologize for not clarifying. I was telling them about an app I had, right? An app idea, that I want to implement for the project and whatnot. It was $800, and the framework is basically the framework. So it's like it's a slide of um, it's just like a slide of pictures, and it's like basically because like depending on like what you're doing, it just takes you to what the page is supposed to look like, something like that. And then he was like, from there, the price does vary, of just how complicated it is to make it, but at the end of the day, we were looking at about like 10 to 15K, to do it. And he said that's on like the bare bones end. And he's like, that's, and especially when you get into like the 3D animation, it could cost more because you got to do, they see the 3D and 2D is two different prices. I said it'd probably be 2D, but even then he said, getting all the artwork and everything like that made, you'd probably be safe to bet, anywhere between 25 and 50K. And I kind of thought it was gonna be high, but I didn't think it was gonna be that high. You know what I mean? So that was that was a little culture shock. Just kind of like talking to another guy, and this completely different guy too. And the thing about it is like this again. You really, I feel like with not knowing the industry, you really have to talk to people who do know it, and you have to talk to a lot of people because the first dude I talked to, we just kind of like went into it. I talked to a second dude. I went to a computer um backer. It's not backer. Shoulder shirt. Um, Computer shop. Uh, and I just started randomly talking about it. 'Cause I was kind of like, I'm like, oh, you know what? I never thought about it. Like, if I want to talk to a person about tech, I should talk to someone in a computer shop. I think it's like the best place to look. You know what I mean? So I just kind of talked about him, and then so he was like throwing some like things at me. Pointer wise, he's like, yeah, make sure you set it up like this because if you don't, you be spending a lot more money than you need to. Something about like hosting your own servers or something. Um, and he just was kind of giving me pointers that really just made sense. For one, it really made sense, and it was like I'm not. There's no fault to the guy because we just never really got into the conversation of it. But I'm just you just never know what you'll learn, especially when you're not in the industry. And so just kind of like learn all the different things. I'm just kind of like, oh, it just broadens my horizon, just like how much of a tight task, get stepping into the gaming space really is. And so talked to them about it for a while, told them the idea for the game, and when I tell you, I talk to people about the game. Like I kind of keep it close to the chest too because I just don't want to just like tell everyone about the specific idea. Because when I told the two dudes because I had to get specific questions answered while we were doing it. And when I tell them, I tell you that I told them their eyes like had lit up. They were like, "Yo, that's actually crazy." And that's like confidence comes from telling somebody who's in the industry who knows whether something's possible or not, and seeing them light up like this is that shit right there would make so much sense. And that I hadn't even told them the entire framework of it, but they already stuck on it. Hey, I'm gassed. I'm gassed up. I'm gassed up. So so it's I know it's a good idea, but it's execution is a big thing. So but it just that research comes in mind because again, you don't know what you don't know. That's another thing that I want to stress. Like with anybody doing anything, you don't know what you don't know. And so in order to change that, you have to start. You got to start somewhere. You got to ask questions. You got to ask questions. You got to surround yourself and talk to people. It's about certain things. And for me, with the project, with Voyager project being so big and so diverse, that's a lot of people to talk to. So that's where like focus comes in, things like that. Um, and narrowing down, where you want to point your arrow at. And so it's just to say, um, once you figure that out, you ask the questions again. You meet people, ask questions, surround yourself in that industry somehow, some way. For me, it's and I'll get to my point in a second, but it's like you got to go to those functions, those what do you call those conventions, things like that. You got to go to those things if you want to surround yourself. You want to find those people because what better place to do it than a convention? What better place to network with somebody in a specific industry is to just go there, or look for artists, go to art shows. You know what I'm saying? Like, and go to conventions where they do contests for different stuff. Yeah, it's just like you have to immerse yourself in an area where because I mean, the research itself I will say for myself, you know, researching by yourself will only take you but so far. It will only take you but so far because you're really just it's a shot in the dark, really. And so, um, I mean, what I'm saying. You just that only takes you but so far. And then for me, I'm not discrediting it. I think it's really good. I think because it should bring clarification. So when I was doing the research, it did clarify to me like don't put your focus into this right now because it's not feasible. You know what I mean? Like that's what research does for me. It allows me to decide on whether or not something's feasible or not. So now I'll give you the example. For me personally, I did after going through everything and really just kind of like deciding on what I wanted to do. I know that I've seen what everything would cost. If I wanted to hire somebody to do this stuff, I seen how much it would cost roughly, right? And can I make it happen? For sure. But do I want to do it? Because is there like a return on my investment, right? Because I would need it, not really, right? So it's not feasible for me to do it on the cheap side. It makes more sense to do it on the, you know, not even expensive, but like the normal, like baseline. It's a good thing for me to start at the bit, not below. Start at my baseline and then go up from there, right? Because you never want to start below the baseline, unless you can do it yourself. So and that's what the key thing is, right? So I was figuring out like, what can I do? Like, what skill can I learn that makes sense for me that I can get into. You know what I mean? It wasn't drawing. I was about to learn how to draw. Um, it wasn't coding. Although I do like coding, I am interested in learning more about it. You know what I'm saying? That's not it. And 3D art is probably what it's going to be. I feel like with 3D art, it's it's reachable for me, manageable. I've done it. I've done it a little bit. Um, and I know the bare minimum, but I'm just taking the class. I'm taking some classes and doing it, but um, that's one thing that I wouldn't mind taking time to like learn how to do really good. But what really kind of stuck with me is like I had to think like, where's my strength at? Like what am I really good at? And that's writing the story. So that's in writing stories. You know what I mean? Like I do really, really well at creating stories, creating believable, enticing, exciting, drama feel. Like I know how to really hit certain pain points, when creating stories and things. Like I do a good job of that. And so it just was like, just write a book, right? So that's my thing. My thing is writing the book. And there's another series that I do. It's Stories on the Moon, which for my first book, I am breaking it down chapter by chapter. So I'm working on it. I'm breaking it down as I'm writing it. This is for me. That's just me. Keeping myself accountable, right? So every week I do um, the series Stories on the Moon, and I always talk about the point I am in the specific book, and I'll talk about it. And then again, it's really just to keep me accountable because I will was I can't I'm not gonna say I have ADHD, but I do get lost in the sauce. You know what I'm saying? Like I will be working on something and there's so many things coming at me at one time, right? Between personal, work and my project, it's like so many things hit me, and you get kind of get put into like a vortex, and so sometimes I get lost. And then like the book is very important, but I'll be writing it. There'll be so much going on. I just, I'll miss a day of writing, and then a day turns into two and three, and then now I haven't written anything for like 4 or 5 weeks, and so I don't want to get. I couldn't figure out a way to stop that. Per se, like I couldn't figure out like how do I combat um losing track, losing focus, and me just doing every week, just doing the video, talking about it. Um, it did help me keep on track. So I can't say I'm gonna do it for every book. Yeah, I can't say I'm gonna do it for every book, but I'm definitely doing it for this first one. So we'll see how that goes. Um, yeah, and so I just feel like and overall, I think I'm getting this like the pretty long into the video. Um, yeah. So overall, I just say all that I've said today is because like you have to be able to find your balance. In order to find your balance, you got to know the variables. You got to know your numbers. Like I didn't at first. The only thing I had was the idea. I had the Voyager project. That was it. And since then, I've come up with the galaxy map. I've come up with the species and how the world is populated. I've come up with the defining piece, right? That ties everything together. I've come up with the stories. I've come up with the games. I've come up with what I'm saying, just the different facets, the music, the shows, the movies, like and so on and so forth. Like I slowly figured it all out, right? And it's like that's what I want to do, and then from there. I've researched like what's feasible, what's possible, what can I actually do in real time? What can I, if I need to start working this on this today, tomorrow, or what I'm saying, at this very moment, what could I do, right? And so you break it all down. Money is answer to a lot of things. I don't have an endless amount of money, you know what I mean? But using the talents that I have, I'm like I write the book. I'll write the book. I'll learn another skill in the meantime, but I'm gonna write the book. And so it's like figuring that back part out, and then it's like now you gotta find your balance. You know what I'm saying? Like I made my studio room because I just kind of like I just have my shit set up anywhere, which it's just not a comfortable working space. So I moved it into the spare room, set it up, and I'm like, yeah, this is my working space. Boom, and it's it's nothing to be like, oh, go crazy with it. But it's there. I have it. And so only place you can go is up. You know what I mean? And so, it's like finding that balance. And then my thing is like, the next thing I'm doing now is just my everyday. Like, what am I doing every day? On a personal tip, I think that uh I really let fast food and convenience food like really take a handle in my life. You know what I mean? Just because it's just easy, it's convenient, and it's cheap. For the most part. Um, but you got the apps and the points. It's cheap, but um, it's definitely taking a big grip. You know what I mean? Especially in like, and I don't get vulnerable. Too often. I think, but I've been told a lot. I've been told a lot that I don't really convey emotions. You know what I mean? Properly. I don't know how to convey my feelings and stuff like that. But I struggle with a lot of depression. Really like really bad depression is chronic. But I tend to say like I'm high functioning. I have high functioning depression. You know what I'm saying? And so, I have my days where it's like I spiral or spin or get sad and things like that. Which I think is anyway. I don't think it's like a huge. I don't think it's a surprise. I think we all kind of like live with it, deal with it. I think on different levels. Everyone has their own scale or whatever. But um, it's like that balance that you decide to find. It's like if there's anything you can do, you know what I mean? You have your routine. You know what I mean? You know what it's going to take, what you got to do in the morning, evening, afternoon, things like that. And it's like that balance helps you regulate it so you don't overwork yourself, right? Because I think when you get overworked, stressed out, it's very easy to slip, right? You have so much going on, the world is spinning, and your legs are wobbly. You know what I mean? And you're on a bender basically, and you can't find your footing. Like this is really easy to do when there's just so much going on. There's just so much chaos in your life. That the only thing that you can do is find your balance. I think that's the only antidote to the chaos. I think that like, and I won't rant too much about it because I don't really talk that crazy about all this, but um, when you have that chaos in your life, when you have those things that are out of your control, some things you just can't do. You have to accept. I think that a really powerful point for yourself, what I'm saying, is not even the confidence, but the will to keep going. I think that like when I watch a lot, and I don't know the algorithm specifically targeting me because they're watching or anything like that, but I see a lot of videos of self help and things like that, and or those like motivational ones, I guess like gym talk or whatever the case is, man. Like I don't know, it's like stuff like that. I see it a lot, and to a point, part of me does appreciate it because it's like it's good to at least hear it because you don't hear it too often. Like but at the same time, I think that like when it talks about when you get into like when I get into like the influential people like the influencers and things like that, I'm not I'm not stomping on anyone else's hustle. I feel like if you gotta work, if you gotta do it, if you gotta put your time into it, get paid for it. You know what I'm saying? But I just feel like there's just a deeper underlying issue with everybody, right? That no one can help but yourself. You know what I mean? You can talk to as many people as you want, as many strengths, as many therapists, as many gurus as you want. You know, if you cannot figure out what that underlying issue is in your own life and you don't have the willpower or the strength or the courage to tackle it yourself, no one else can help you. You know what I mean? And I think that like it is hard to define that, Some people like I feel like I have a very self-aware, perspective of my own life. And so, I know what my underlying issue is, and I think I take steps all the time to like just work through it. You know what I mean? And that's why I be so confident. Well, not confident. That's why I be so stuck on business and things like that. But in a sense, for me, that crux that self awareness has been kind of like I don't want to say disease, but it's caused me to I know my underlying issue, and then so I basically work to, get me out of my situation, you know what I mean? And so I get so, hyper fixated on that, it does become super unhealthy. Like it's easy for me to skip things. It's easy for me to, lose sight of what the goal is and things like that. Like I'll get off script. Like I'll lose the plot. Like why am I working so hard? Like I'll lose that. Because I get so hyper fixated because I'm like, I know what the problem is. I need to fix it now, right? Try not to yell, but um, it's just like it's become a bit of a curse. So I didn't mean disease. I was like a little bit of a curse. You know what I'm saying, or a double edged sword, if you may. But help me, taking that moment to work on finding my balance has been such a godsend, such a hike. So I would say like, oh man, for the first time in dude, man, years. I mean years really, because I've been like I this is not the first thing I've done. This is not the first business I worked on. A little bit about me. I know again, this is just me ranting because I feel like we at the end. If you follow me this far, if you watch this far, man, like let's get deep with it. But this isn't the first business I've ever worked on. This is just one of many, and I would say I've never had a unsuccessful business. I've just lost interest. That is my number one issue. Like I would do something to a point where like man, if I lose interest, it's over. You know what I mean? Like I just don't. I would just stop doing it. It's like it would have been making money. It would have been doing just fine, and not crazy. I feel like some businesses they kind of make good money, but it's just like I always ask myself, and a little history is that my family used to own a restaurant, but I had dedicated so much of my life and time. Like I think was in the restaurant since I was like 16, and everything I did was wrapped into that restaurant. My jobs, my business. I started catering because of it. You know what I mean? So many things popped off because of it that when it went away, it kind of was like snatched the floor right from underneath me. You know what I mean? And I never at that time I kind of never really thought it would end. I just thought we had hard months. You know, like never a hard year or anything like that. We definitely had hard months and stuff. I always say winter is always the hardest. You know what I mean? But we always bounced back and always came back stronger. You know what I mean? It was always bigger, and so it was like I used to think like it was too solid to fail, but when it did, and it didn't fail, it's again outside forces. There are things that will happen outside your room because the restaurant always made money. It was a very profitable restaurant. You feel me? And it was worth it was worth a lot. You know what I mean? Like especially for where it was. I mean, you would have thought it would never work, but won't he do it? You know what I mean? Like that's really gotta say it. But again, outside forces that there's outside variables in life that there's nothing you can do about it. You just can't stop that, And so just taking that into account, you know what I mean? It's just kind of like, okay, like it just got snatched up from underneath me. It opened up a new place in my mind where it's kind of like, I started thinking of things, in years, because looking back on it, and I always do, like if we had certain things in place, it would definitely like we had a really good foundation, really diversified. Everything was coming in and going. It would have been a completely different story. So I built my businesses therefore on is like the foundation as I call it. When you want to build an empire, it starts with the first stone, right? And so my first stone, I always put down my first stone. I'm analyzing, the field. Like, okay, in 5 years, where could it potentially be, right? And in 10 years, what would I potentially be doing? You know what I mean? It's like, can I see myself being attached to this for the coming seasons? Right? It's like I always ask those questions, and some businesses they make it past like that 1 year stage. I'll do it and I'll work on it, and it goes good. Some others, I do have grand visions for them, but then it's kind of like the practical stage. It's like, well, you see, so you get, you're the architect, you map out how everything's supposed to go, right? And then you go from architect to builder, right? Is this going to work? Like, if I want to build my castle in a circle, is that feasible? Can I do that? Can I blade these blocks and so it won't fall, right? And if you're not careful and as a builder, you just build if you see a circle and you build a circle and you don't have the right foundation to make sure that circle is stable, right? You could be 5, 10 years into it, right? Because building takes a long time. You know what I mean? Like it takes hundreds of years to build a cathedral. I don't know what cathedral it was, but if you look at some of the cathedrals, up in like Rome and things like that, they're not made by the same. The whole thing's not made by the same one person. You know what I'm saying? Like there's, it's just it takes a long time to make those, and it's like when you're 10 years in to something that you didn't even contemplate of, like, is this gonna like is it gonna fall or what? You could be 10 years in and then it collapse. And then there it is. You feel me? So it's just like you're the architect first, then you're the builder, right? And you're building for a long time. And then I don't know how you would describe it, but it's like once you have your kingdom, then you become king, right? Then you delegate. You're the king of you're the king of the castle. You delegate. Um, you know, find people to help you expand and grow and things like that, right? But you can't be the king of dirt. You know what I mean? Like you build that circle castle, wind comes down, blows it down, then the king of what? And so that weighs on me a lot, and that weighs on a lot of my decisions and stuff when it comes to just figuring out what I want to do. And so, you know, it's just rough. And I think that like, I think that's a rough way of looking at it, but you do gain a different kind of perspective, in my opinion, which I don't recommend it to everybody. But if you have the willpower, to see it through, then I recommend everyone to do it. If you can't figure out what you want to do, too, this is because I feel like you could be like me and have all these ideas and not know how to ring them in. I think it's a lot of people in general. Some people just know exactly what they want to do and they go do it, but me, I'm just not. I'm just not like that. So it's a different kind of, it's just a different process. And then this process has got me get to where I am today. And now I'm making YouTube videos that are 30 minutes long, goddamn diary sessions and stuff. And, I just don't know where this will take. But, this is the longest I've ever done it. I've done YouTube before, but I'm like, shit, consistent. You know what I mean? I be in it to win it. So, um, it is what it is. But I'm not. I'm gonna leave you guys with that, man. I'm leave it with that. I'm not. I told myself, 15 minutes today, and we double that. What? That's crazy. So I don't know. I don't think I have a radio voice. So if you stuck around this long, I appreciate you as always. You know what I mean. And I think at some point this is it's an early thing to say, but for the future, for the future people who jump into these processes and stuff like that, I hope you find what you're looking for. I hope you do the thing that you've always wanted to do. I hope you get it done, and I'm glad for you to be on this journey with us. So signing out, I'll see you guys next week.